Welcome. This is the Enlightenment Podcast, part of the Authors on Air Global Radio Network. And I'm your host, Laurie Schoenfeld. I hope that everyone that celebrated Thanksgiving this week had a delightful, nurturing, and relaxing week. I'm really excited to introduce you to our guest today, David A. Roberts, who is the CEO and founder of Vision Warrior and the author of the two books, Vision Challenge and Vision Warrior, Strive and Thrive in a Zombie Apocalypse. Welcome, David. So excited to have you joining us today.
Hey, Lori. Well, thank you I feel blessed to be on your show. I'm looking forward to our journey here. As I shared with you before we got started, I went back and looked at or listened to your journey on my show, and I was very inspired again. So hopefully this will be as inspiring.
I have no doubt it will be, because you inspire me in multiple ways, David. So it's an honor to have you here joining me in this beautiful conversation. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was amazing. With 5 children and, obviously all the family, still have a 90-year-old mother. I'm actually in Kansas City sharing that time now with time over the last few days with my mom and my siblings. And so I'm not in the Dallas area, but I got to experience Thursday with my family there, and then a couple that weren't there, we've connected on Zoom since. And it's amazing how our world has changed, right?
Mm-hmm. Thankful for technology where we can connect in multiple different ways through this time. Do you have a favorite dish that you can't live without, David, on Thanksgiving?
Well, I'm a carnivore, so actually I've got to have the turkey and the gravy and just the basic stuff. I don't do a lot of carbs these days, so the meat, the vegetables. I love the green bean casserole and some of that kind of stuff. That's kind of a staple here in this part of the world, so, and in my family. So
high five, the green bean casserole. No one will eat that. I'm the only one that will, but it's like a dish of leftovers for a week then.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It's the gift that keeps on giving, right? Mm-hmm. And then my sister-in-law made me oatmeal scotchies, which is I don't handle that well because I'm kind of gluten sensitive, but I still have to eat them. I'll just make that deviation and pay the price.
What are those? I've never heard of those before.
Well, they're like oatmeal cookies with butterscotch morsels in them, and they are to die for. So yeah, they're very good. Of course, I have to have apple pie, some of those things. So I choose the holiday times to get all my carbohydrates in for the year, I think. So
your business, Vision Warrior, can you tell us what inspired you to start that?
Well, it's much like your own journey and writing your book and some of the things that you've been on. And like I said, I revisited that very recently. I retired. Tomorrow, believe it or not, is actually my 16th year anniversary from retiring from corporate America. I retired from a company called Accenture, was a partner, and decided that at that point, even though the paycheck was big and 7-digit income, big house, all the other things that people consider to be successful and important, there's a term that I use called peace, and I didn't have peace for whatever reason in my soul for that anymore. It wasn't about the money, it wasn't about the achievement or the success, but something underneath that thing on my own journey. I just found myself getting to potentially a point where I I felt that I would get to the end of my life and have regrets. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's where I was. And you say, well, you were, and frankly, 16 years ago, or even a little 16 years ago, when I was making the decision, people said, are you crazy? You're at the top of your game? You know, I wish I had your lifetime. I wish I had your life. You know, you're a great dad. All this stuff, right? 4 of my 5 kids were still in middle school and high school. So, and I said, I just don't have peace. And so I wasn't sure why, but then I came to this decision to retire, and I am retired. I'm sitting here retired today. You are today, and your audience, part of my ideal day. And that is because that's by design. I allocate space. I've decided, but I've been on that journey, right? I mean, I got on a journey of realizing that I wasn't at peace with the path that I was on, but I didn't know why. I said, I want to spend whatever time I have left making a difference. And I didn't know what that meant. Now I know what that means. And I now work with other people, kind of like you and your play, the play, the inner child, that whole thing. I now work with people who are maybe like I was, or maybe they're millennials. I really like working with millennials, and I like working with people who are maybe got to the point that I was at, where they don't have peace. They feel like there's something missing. And it's generally because we have an inner zombie, and we have, as I call it, the warrior versus zombie podcast. That's not a pejorative. It's not a negative thing. It's simply that 95% of the thoughts and the actions and the things we do today are the same ones we did yesterday. And if we don't become intentional about what we do, our destiny will be our history. And I don't think any of us are ready to cash in. And that's kind of where I was, right? So I got into that myself and realized that retirement is simply doing what I want, when I want, with who I want, where I want, and doing that with intention as opposed to by default. And then the thing is, most people think of make money, and then if you have money, have an impact. Well, if you're making $1 million a year and you give 35% of it to things you believe in, you can have an impact, right? So people say, well, that doesn't work for me. But the thing is, I no longer had peace with doing that. And this is me. I'm not suggesting everybody has this approach to their life, but my retirement was flipping that switch and saying, I want to have an impact first. And then if money follows, it's a beautiful thing. And so what I teach people to do is, as the vision warrior, or what I work with people, is the same journey I went on, is reminding or discovering or rediscovering with what is the reason God or the universe has me on the planet. Everybody has a unique reason for being here. Everybody has unique value or gifts that they can provide to the universe. Nobody's unnecessary. And then if anything were possible, and spoiler alert, anything is possible, what would your ideal day, what would the future look like, is what the question, my signature question is. But the reality of it is, it's not a destination. You never arrive. It's a journey. Just like the song says, it's a journey every day. And really, the most important thing you or I have, whether we realize it or not, the most important asset is our time.
Absolutely. I love how you talk about the unique vision of changing the world one dream at a time. How can one go about finding what their unique vision is and what their dream for themselves is on their journey?
Yeah, that's the nature of the Vision Challenge. So, and it's a series of, again, self-observance, self-awareness, exploring the things that got you excited when you were a child. See, one of the cool connections here between you and I is that you knew when you were little, and as you've grown up over time, as we've gone on our journey, and I have more journey behind me than you do, but still, when we're kids, we believe anything's possible, right? And we are more willing to embrace that unique reason. You might say, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be this, or I want to be that, when your inner child is there. But underneath that, there's something that's consistent. And as you go down your journey, if you're and I like working with entrepreneurs, small business owners, and individuals. I used to work with CEOs, methodology we used, and I don't mind doing that, but it feels too much like work, and I am retired. So I don't want to deal with the politics and the alignment within organizations. And they write bigger checks than individuals usually, but I'd rather work with somebody, have an impact than whatever comes. That's the thing. So I work with them on, again, their unique reason, help them remember. If you look at all of the things that you do, and I say you because it's you and me and everybody else, and everybody listening to this or enjoying this podcast, hopefully, every time you show up, there's certain things you tend to bring to the table. You may not pay attention to it, but there's things that people look to you for. My superpower is connecting the dots. I can see dots and connect them in ways that other people don't. And I know that. And that's how I did multi-billion-dollar outsourcing transactions, which are very complex, right? Because I could see how you could get to an end. But it's the same thing when I worked in ministry then after I retired, and it's the same thing that I bring to the table with every interaction. And we all have that, not the same thing, but we all have that unique value. Those two things, your unique reason why you're here on the planet and the value you provide to those in your community and around you, become your identity, if you will. That's really who you are. And then your unique vision, which is where you're going. Again, you and I may be when I use the term alignment intentionally, because we may be aligned, but we're not on the same journey. We are aligned. Okay. So, because we each have a unique vision, a unique journey that we're on, and we'll tend to, if we understand those things, then we will tend to draw in and attract people that are alongside us, behind us. We'll be attracted to people that are in front of us on the same path. It's a beautiful thing.
It absolutely is. Talking about your journey, David, can you talk to us about the transition part between you stepping away from corporate and the first steps you took moving into this new vision yourself?
I'm smiling because that's an interesting question, because I like most people my age and maybe people today, when I retired, I thought I knew what that term meant. Like I said, retirement is not doing nothing. And I thought, I like to play golf. I mentioned 4 of my 5 kids were at home. So a lot of my why for making that shift, I believed and felt in my soul, was to allocate more bandwidth to those things. And for about 6 months in that transition, played regularly golf with friends, was very, daily involved in my kids' lives, very hands-on, doing things that I thought I wanted to do all the time, not thinking about the holistic nature and incorporating my life purpose beyond just, I'm not saying just family, but beyond, what people normally think of. And I came to this realization that I couldn't play golf well enough to ever be on the tour. So I wasn't going to make an impact, by my golf. And about several months into it, my kids, who, by the way, were in, like I said, middle school, high school, preteen, teen, years, they all voted for me to have more of me and maybe less stuff, right? So that was a beautiful thing. It makes me emotional when I think about the fact that I said, okay, you look around this 7,500 square foot house, you see all this stuff, and frankly, we make this decision, it could all go away. I don't know. But so would you rather have this that you can see and touch, or would you rather have your dad? And they all voted to have your dad. That being said, at one point, one of my kids, and I won't mention their name, but one of my kids said to me, Dad, don't you have any friends? Because we love you being around, but we got friends. We got stuff to do. We don't, they wanted me around, but they didn't want me around that much. And all of a sudden I realized that I needed more. And the thing is, I also started trying to figure out, okay, what does this look like? And if you retire the way I was thinking of it, and the way many people, probably the majority, think of it, is your average life expectancy is 6 years. Okay? Because giving up on your life purpose, regardless of the role that you're in, I'm a Christian, by the way, and so I believe that we're here for a purpose, and we have a unique purpose. Well, if we're not fulfilling that purpose, why not go to heaven? Why not leave? I mean, take me out. It's that kind of thing, right? So then I went on this journey of what I call divine appointment, which was kind of a spiritual thing for me in terms of God kind of didn't speak to me audibly, but actually inspired me to just be present, just take the meeting. Somebody like you calls, says, can I talk to you? Do I need you? And rather than saying, well, I'm not sure if there's value in this conversation, no, just take the appointment and it'll be revealed the value at some point. And just be present in each moment because, as I say, the past is already done and hopefully we've learned something from it. Future is on, as I say, on God's calendar, and the only thing I can do is stay on the journey every day and impact that. So I had to learn that. And many of us have to be either learn it or be reminded of it. And so I love, love, love helping people reconnect with those things in their lives. And that's the essence of Vision Warrior, survive and thrive in the zombie apocalypse. It's the framework of the Vision Challenge with a lot of warrior stories, which I'm actually accumulating by doing my Warrior versus Zombie podcast.
Mm-hmm. That 6 months, was it an opportunity for you to get to know yourself even better or in a different way?
Yes, it was. I'm still on that journey, Lori. I mean, it's just one of those things where it never ends. I'm discovering things about myself, but I think when you get to a certain level of success, impact, consumption of your most valuable asset, which is your time, you quit thinking about what that really means, right? And then today I realize that in this moment, in this conversation, in our interaction with the rest of the world, there's something to be learned. And hopefully I'm improving from that.
Your podcast, Zombie versus Warrior. I would love to chat about that, as you had just mentioned that was a big part of the connections that you're making, hearing their journey. Why did you choose Zombie versus Warrior as your name for the podcast?
So I tell a story, and it goes back. It's actually Warrior versus Zombie. So my fundamental concept is that we're all warriors. You're a warrior. I'm a warrior. Anybody who's moving forward with intention with their own intent is a warrior. And we're all infected by the zombie virus, which basically is, and it's more of a metaphor, but it's really intended to communicate that we have these things in our world, between our ears, the habits, the things that we need to allow us to move forward, but we need to engage the 5% of our thoughts each day with our own intent and not let those be overwhelmed. So that zombie mind, is the journey, as your journey we went on in your podcast, for example. You have a story. There's zombies you overcame to get to the point where we had the conversation and to get where you are today, right? And then going forward, you're still, as a warrior, continuing to move forward. Those zombies in our lives are really that's the highs, the low, the ups and downs, the things that we experience in our lives, both outside and inside, right? And they have become a foundation for our path forward. That's kind of the introduction, right? And so I was, when I made the decision to retire, I felt like I was a zombie. I woke up, I traveled 4 million miles in airlines, up to that point, and I woke up on a plane. So I learned to sleep on planes because you travel a lot, and I needed a lot of energy when I got home to my 5 kids. And so I woke up, and it just seemed like everything was in slow motion. I felt like we were all zombies, the same people that I saw on the flight before. It's just all this thing. And so when I was trying to think about where I had come from, I realized that I was in some form a lot, moving forward without my own intention, without being aware of exactly where I was going. And we all have that.
What's one of the biggest things that you've learned as of recent on your path right now?
What I've learned since that time and recently is something that I knew. I would say that I always say I've never had an original thought, or there's not something that I've occurred to me that hasn't occurred to somebody else, or for sure to God. There's things there, right? And one of the things in the last few years has been that I've learned is that life really is a team sport. And so my focus on building community and building networks. I run Richardson Plano Networkers. I'm now part of a global platform called Be Connected, which is the way to get in touch with me. If you really want to connect with me, is a way to do that these days. There's just a number of things that I've learned about the importance of, once you have that clarity and know where you're going and know why and value you can provide, is to having the community to invest in, and then also the community to surround yourself with, in order to make that vision, that dream, a reality.
It reminds me of the thought process that there's room for all of us to win. That the more we connect with one another, the more that just gives more opportunity and a different space for our journey in different areas, as we're all just a piece of supporting and uplifting each one of our own journeys. I love that you bring that to the forefront too within your business and what you're doing within your coaching. And we'll put all those links in the comments below so that you're able to connect directly to David and see what he's up to in the world. David, we're going to go to the inner child question segment. All right. First question. What is one of your favorite things about the holidays?
My favorite thing about the holidays is that they remind me of my inner child, and that anticipation of something that I didn't expect, or to be surprised, to be putting your faith, even though, I mean, I don't know if this is child friendly or not, but it wasn't in, whether it's in Santa or, that, or you wanted, you had something, but you didn't have any guarantee of outcome. You just had to accept that there was this opportunity that was going to come, and not so much anymore. The thing I learned, that I heard my parents say, it's more blessed to give than to receive, and those kinds of things. Now being on the other side of that, and just being able to see, as a child, in a lot of ways, the children, the grandchildren, the people in my life experience that joy, that wonder, that just faith in something that is outside of themselves. That to me is such a beautiful thing. The fact that people generally are more, if they're not focused on the consumption aspect of the holidays, my inner child is wanting to see the smiles and smell the smells, and just all of the things that come with it that remind me of my past and remind me of the journey that I've been on. And so my inner child is continually awakened and joyful during this time.
I just got the chills as you were talking about your memories, because some of mine came to the forefront when you were talking too. All those sensory details are so magical. What toy did you like when you were a kid that you still think about to this day?
Well, it's interesting because wasn't when I was a little kid. That was kind of my 6-shooter and some of my cowboy stuff. But the one that really continues to come to mind, the thing that I wanted, I grew up, and it wasn't like everything we ever wanted we got, kind of thing. We were what I would call lower middle class. I mean, it wasn't like I had all this stuff, but my parents were very dedicated to giving us a good experience. And I wanted a record player. Now this is going to date me. And I wanted a record player to play my music. And I didn't think I would get it. It was a big deal. And I got a record player. And much to the chagrin probably of my parents, because I was early teens, and that's really I was able to play my music, my records. And music, as I say, is my life. It's not my livelihood. And so I love music. I sing. I like to, if you say we're going to have a karaoke party, you'll find me. So I'm ready to go with that. So that's probably the most meaningful gift in this time, because it really solidified my love for music and listening to music and experiencing that.
What was the first record that you ever got for your record player?
Oh, now that's a tough one. Actually, the funny thing is, I think it was a 45. Again, dating myself. Of it was either "Happy Together" by the Turtles, which is I don't know if you know that group, or it was it was either that or "8 Days a Week" by the Beatles. So again, dating myself, but
oh, that makes me so happy. Third question, what is the oddest, so the weirdest food combo that you've liked and tried, or you've just tried?
The weirdest food combo that I've liked and tried, I'm not sure if it was a combo, but it was rattlesnake with a kind of a sweet, spicy jalapeno dip. I think was that's a weird one, because I don't know why that one came to mind. It's been years since I had that experience, and I loved it. I mean, it was I don't think I've had it very. It's not that I go to the restaurant trying to order it, but yeah, weird, huh?
I've never had that, and I'm visualizing it. So yeah, but I'm also intrigued. So here's my wonder. Did it taste like a meat that we can relate? Like, did it taste like chicken? Like, what kind of texture is
Yeah,
this?
it has. It's funny because I know that was going to be cliche. It was really more that the rattlesnake itself. And I don't know if it's a combination of that and what it was the sauce that I dipped it in or whatever, but the meat itself tasted like chicken. I mean, white meat chicken. It was fried kind of like the way you would, like nuggets or whatever. I mean, it wasn't that big, but they were little pieces. So yeah, it was kind of unique. That's an interesting question. You got me there. That's a good one.
I can get on board with the fact you said fried and chicken, like visually. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Where can they find you, our listeners, if they have any other questions for you or would like to connect with your podcast or business?
So, as I think you'll post, is myvisionwarrior.com is a website. Actually, just in full disclosure, I'm in the process of updating that. But the main thing there is that's a place where somebody can actually schedule time. It bounces up against. There's a booking engine there, a booking calendar there that people can find. I've got probably 100,000 connections virtually on a bunch of platforms. So just in all honesty, there's a lot of noise there. So the best way to connect with me, if you want to connect on a social platform, is to become part of, which by invitation. So you're invited to be part of the Be Connected platform. I'm channeling all of my 10,000 plus LinkedIn requests to meet and everything through that. And you can find me, just put my name in that platform. That's the thing about it that I like, is it's very point to point, just like that. And so that would be myvisionwarrior.beconnected.com. And you can connect with me there. And that's the other thing. And then my podcast, I just published episode 51. You were episode 31. This on Thursday. I published it on Thursday, but I pre-recorded it. Normally it's live in the Hive now. That's one of the reasons I want to get you back on my show, is because we now do it like this, and it's live in the Hive, and then we still publish it to all the audio podcasts after the fact. So that's the other way you can kind of hear. You can hear Lori's story. You can hear other warriors on the journey, and everybody is. I just love every episode, because it's not about me. It's about people like Lori, like you, and others that I've had the blessing to be able to have a conversation with.
So very grateful to know you, David, and I've really appreciated our friendship and the connections that we have made as well. Before we end today, what advice can you give our listeners on living a creative life?
Well, I would say the advice I would give every listener is, number one, to reconnect with your inner child. I'll give a plug for Lori there. Get back to your belief that anything is possible, because anything is possible. And as we go from being a child in our inner child, and we really do reconnect to our inner child, and then we start to realize what has impacted us along the way, there's many things outside of us that have programmed us to stay in a smaller and smaller box of possibilities and believe that anything is possible, just like when you were a child. And if you're going to be creative, go with what you're inspired with. Don't be motivated. Don't be manipulated. Don't try to please anybody else. Simply go in and embrace your inner child. Know that there's a reason you have that inspiration, that passion, and go with it, because you're going to create something wonderful for the world that maybe nobody else has really thought of, and connecting the dots in that way.
Thank you so much for following your heart, David, and for sharing your unique vision with all of us. I so appreciate you being here and spending this time today with us. And we'll have all of the links below in comments. Thank you for those who joined us today and will be listening in later on the replay. As you go about the rest of your week, remember to look for all the things that are working all around you. You are the hero to your own journey. What do you want to create? We'll see you next Monday at 1:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time with Nola Nash, the author of Crescent City Moon. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and we'll see you next Monday.